All right, well, by my clock, it is 12:30 Eastern, so we will go ahead and get started with this webinar. My name is John Mann, and I am an assistant professor at Michigan State University, and I host this series, Innovations in Agriculture and Rural Development, and the series is sponsored by the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development, which is housed here at Michigan State University. So I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar. The title of the webinar is The State of New Media Marketing in Green Industry and Implications for Small Rural Businesses. So thank you everybody for participating today. Before we officially get started, I want to highlight a couple of things. So we've got some poll questions up. So if just right here before we get started, if you'll take a quick second and answer the poll questions. Next, in the box to the lower right of the screen, I've got some contact information for myself and with our YouTube page. And the YouTube page is where we will post the recording. I also have this information in the chat box below. And so we've got the emails, addresses of our presenters, our YouTube page, and also my LinkedIn address. And so that's one way I like to keep track of my network is through LinkedIn. So please connect with me there. The next thing is we are indeed recording the presentation, and so like I said, this will be posted on our YouTube page tomorrow. And so again, we've got that address there. And finally, the presentation itself is going to be about 30 minutes, and then we'll have about 15 minutes for questions and answers. So thanks again for presenting or for participating today. So let me introduce our presenters real quick. So Dr. Cheryl Boyer, excuse me. She is an assistant professor and extension specialist at Kansas State University. We also have Dr. Lori Baker. She is an assistant professor in agricultural communications at Kansas State. And last, we've got Dr. Hakeru Peterson, and she is a professor of food marketing and consumer economics at the University of Minnesota. And they're going to share more about their research efforts in new market media or new media marketing. So go ahead and take it away.
Hi, well, we're happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us to give a webinar. We're excited to share the results of some of our most recent work. So this is Cheryl Boyer you're hearing from. I'm an associate professor and extension specialist for nursery crops and garden centers in Kansas. And Laurie Baker is here with me. She's also an associate professor in communications. Do you have our presentation up, or did you want to talk about the poll questions, John?
Nope, that was my oversight. I apologize about that. So here we go. We're loading the page, so it should be up.
Okay, excellent. So today we're going to talk about the results of, well, you know what? I'm just going to skip to the next slide. You've heard the title, State of New Media Marketing in the Green Industry and Their Implications for Small Rural Businesses, which is the focus of the North Central Region project. So today we're going to share a little bit about who we are and talk about our most recent research, which is actually quite recent. It was last fall. And it's a good piece of the puzzle that we've been working on for the last several years. And then at the end, we're going to talk about what it means for your business and how that can be applied to different aspects of your in your marketing toolbox. So we're excited to go through that. So who are we? It's been just over a year since we created the Center for Rural Enterprise Engagement at K-State. And our goal, we hit all three missions of the land grant university. We do original research that focuses on helping small rural businesses, rural growers, and specifically, since I am the Nursery and Garden Center Extension Specialist, we're starting there. I saw a need several years ago for a way to help our garden centers and nurseries navigate the complex landscape of social media marketing. And so we pulled together a team and we started working on it, and we just keep going. So it's pretty exciting. So we're doing lots of different types of research, and our goal is to equip practitioners and people in the field that are running their businesses to understand these technologies in ways that they can use them easily and kind of surf the top of how much social media and new media marketing changes. So we hope to be that tool to help you sift through the trouble and the the frustration that can be algorithm changes and all sorts of things to help you figure out what works best for you and how you can, measure the work that you're doing with your business. So we also do quite a bit of teaching. So we do research teaching with undergraduate and graduate students, and we do extension, which is the equip part. So I certainly love my job and I love sharing with others what we're doing and finding ways to help them more. So that's what the Center for Rural Enterprise Engagement is all about. So who are we? So you're hearing from me. I'm Dr. Cheryl Boyer, and the three of us, Dr. Hikaru Peterson and Dr. Laurie Baker, are the co-founders of our Center for Rural Enterprise Engagement, and we're just kind of getting it off the ground. We have lots of plans for the future for how we can grow our center and collaborate with more people in lots of different ways. But it's been really fun to be the different pieces of it. So I am, the subject specific content expert with nurseries and garden centers. Hikaru is an agricultural economist, so she's the money part. So we're grateful for that piece. And Laurie's the communications part. So together we make a pretty good team, and we enjoy working together. Last summer actually, hasn't been quite a year, we were able to hire Mr. Scott Stebner as he was our very first graduate student in agricultural communications, and we hired him to be our managing director. So he helps us write the blog and engage with our Facebook group and our different audiences. And he's been a really good associate for our team. So we're grateful to have him on board too. But so if you contact the center, you can contact any of us directly, or Scott handles a lot of the day-to-day stuff, and we just keep trucking in our respective areas of specialty. So what we're going to talk about today is our most recent research project. And this was conducted last fall, and it was with a blank slide. How about that? Oh, there we go. So we wanted to do a survey to find out who or how people were using new media marketing techniques in their businesses. And so we knew that the horticulture industry is pretty big. National sales are 13.8 billion, but that's over a whole lot of different subspecialties. But a key piece of that is that more than half of those businesses are family or individually owned, though the really big businesses, the corporations, account for more than 3/4 of the sales. So the small businesses are staying in small rural communities, and the focus of our work is to help them find ways to stay there and thrive. So we wanted to develop a tool. Scott's research, which we talked about last year, went out and interviewed garden center owners to try to find out how they were using new media technology and what some of their challenges were and how they could overcome them. And our second piece of that puzzle was to try to put some numbers to what we were learning. And so we had a student, Hikaru directed a student in agricultural economics, and we developed a survey that we had lots of different questions about how people use it, how much they spend on it. And we distributed the survey, and actually we tried to do it last spring, which is a terrible time to do it for garden centers if you know anything about our season. They were certainly busy. It was their heaviest time of year, and it was not a good time. So we hit them again in the fall, in September, October, with this full survey. And we did that by, I have a listserv of people who participate in my own nursery crop educational content. We have Facebook pages, and there are industry associations that are both magazines, e-newsletters, and a lot of those are, a handful of those are national. But I went through and contacted every single state association, and where there wasn't a state, there were sometimes regional associations. And I think I sent out about 80 emails to people across the country to encourage them to fill out this survey. And Hikaru is going to talk about how many people responded to that, but we reached out on a national and local basis as best we could, and we felt like we got some pretty good results. So today, that's what we're going to share with you. And I am going to let Hikaru take over from here.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. Hello, everybody. This is Hikaru taking over the microphone now. And so after all these multiple distribution efforts, we heard back from 192 businesses. And for completion and for additional analysis, about 160 of those were usable. So thanks to Cheryl's effort, respondents represented all 12 USDA National Ag Statistical Service regions, and you can see them dotted on the map. But with a heavier concentration from the Northern Plains region, where, of course, Kansas State is located and where the survey was administered from. These businesses were located in communities of various size as well. And so the average, we asked them for their zip code, and so we converted them to where they were, and the average population of communities where these businesses were located were quite populous, 114,000, but median was 13,000. And so more than half of the businesses were located in fairly small communities. And in fact, 20% of our respondents were located in communities with less than 2,500 people, which is the cutoff, the population cutoff for that USDA uses to define rural areas. So let's talk about what sort of businesses specifically are our respondents. And in terms of annual gross sales, which are tabulated to your left, you can tell that there were quite small businesses and there were quite large businesses. If you look at the 2012 Ag Census, the average value of products marketed by nursery, greenhouse, and floriculture operations were about 350,000. And our sample median was 750,000. So you can see that it is representing our sample weighs heavier on the larger businesses of the industry. And we wonder when we were soliciting participants, we had a blurb in there and try to entice people to respond to our survey. And we did use the word social media in there as a possible question that folks might have about marketing efforts. And we wondered that perhaps larger businesses who already were engaged in social media perhaps were more attracted to participating in this survey effort. And in fact, of our 160 some usable responses, all but 17 were using some sort of online media marketing. So for the majority, we can look at the marketing channels on the right-hand side. Retail is important. And if you look at the retail percentage, they're 69.6%. That's the average proportion of sales businesses made through retail. So the majority of our respondents are folks who sell their products directly to consumers. Interacting with consumers is important, and that's probably also a likely motivation why they participated in our survey. So we'll take a look at their marketing practices next, but in doing so, I'm going to draw an arbitrary distinction in size of business right at 250,000, and that's what the purple line is doing there on the left. It's dividing our sample into thirds, so a third of the sample was selling less than 250,000 in 2014, and then about 2/3 were selling more than 250,000. And I think it'll give us an idea about different ways the smaller businesses versus larger businesses are using their marketing venues. So we can look at marketing efforts in various ways, one's in terms of dollars and the others in terms of time. And so the annual expenses are on the top. And we ask them to write in the amount that they spent on overall marketing efforts. And so we gave them a long list of examples to be included in this marketing expense, like print advertisement, phone calls, TV, radios, fairs and trade shows, websites, social media, newsletters, and so forth. And as I talked about, we've separated this out into smaller businesses and larger businesses, and you can clearly tell that there's a difference in the dollar amounts that people are spending on marketing across these business sizes. Even though we asked them to write in a dollar amount, you see that some folks did write in the amount 0, even though we had this laundry list of things. And so it's probably likely that what one person regarded as a marketing expense probably differed from what another person has thought. But if you look at the amount being spent and also comparing the annual sales, that you can kind of tell from how we're distinguishing the business size, that quite a few businesses are spending in the range of 10 to 20% of their total sales. You can also tell that the distribution is quite skewed to the right, meaning that there are a few handful of businesses who are spending a lot, but then many more businesses are spending much less than the average. And so if you look at the median values, those are where the 50th percentile of businesses are using. So for the smaller groups, half of the smaller groups were spending less than $875, and then half of them were spending more than $875, all the way up to $25,000. If you look at the weekly hours allocated, you see a similar skewed distribution. So again, handful spending a lot of hours, but then the majority of folks spending a lot less. And you can tell that the businesses in the larger group, on average, had 18 hours dedicated. So if you think about a 40-hour a week as a full-time person, they're able to allocate nearly one half-time person working on marketing. But if you look at the smaller businesses, that's almost the maximum that one of those smaller businesses are allocating on marketing efforts. So then we can look at how these businesses are allocating these dollars and time across different marketing venues in the next slide. And I'm sorry, this is a busy slide, so I'll talk through a little bit here. The question we asked was, how often do you use the following venues to reach your customers? And so their responses are in terms of frequency that they're using these different venues. So that we have online marketing, we have fairs and shows, TV, radio, personal interactions, and print advertisement. In the top set of bars correspond to the smaller businesses, and then the bottom set of bars correspond to the larger businesses. So across the venues, we do see differences in frequency that we expect. So we expect that personal interactions and online marketing are probably used more frequently than things like print advertisements or fairs and trade shows. If we compare between the smaller businesses and larger businesses, you can see that the use patterns for personal interactions and print advertisements, which are the bottom two bars in the respective set of bars. But for the other three, you see that the larger businesses are in general using them a lot more frequently than smaller businesses. Now, the question that we'll have to probe after we have this result is it because they're choosing to allocate this much effort in using these venues frequently, or is it that they have resources that allow them to do that? It's a chicken and egg thing that we need to consider. Specifically looking at the status of these businesses' online platform accounts, you can see that Facebook is the predominant platform, regardless of size, and even more than their own websites, which is listed separately there. And blogs were being used by the fewest number of businesses. Now you can also see that the status of accounts differ quite a bit between the business size, particularly in terms of the e-newsletters or the HTML newsletters and blogs. And it might be that newsletters and blogs require some sort of a writing skills or talent that unless you have someone like that who's natural at it in your business, that only larger businesses can actually afford to recruit and allocate their time into these tasks to be completed. Now, similar to the broader marketing venues, We asked about the frequency of use across these various online marketing venues to reach their customers. So again, the responses are frequency, and we're looking at the four that we were asking about. And so across marketing venues, we see that social media, which as we saw in the previous slide, is predominantly Facebook, is used the most frequently by the largest percentage of businesses, followed by their own websites. Again, we see that larger businesses are in general using all of these online marketing venues quite a bit more frequently than the smaller businesses. So this is how businesses are using the online and online marketing venues. What do businesses think about their efforts in terms of impacting their businesses? And so we first ask them to rank their perceived impact on sale. So at this point, I don't know if businesses really think that they're making any money for them or not. We just know the relative rankings of these different online venues. And so if you look, the ranking really mirrors how intensively they're using these venues. So it's hard to know, again, it's a chicken and egg thing. Are they using it because they think they get more bang for their buck, or the other way around, that because they're using it, that they think that they're being effective? It's hard to know at this point with just the data that we have. The exception is the e-newsletter. And so if you remember from the previous slide, that e-newsletters were not as frequently used as social media or websites, but proportionally more folks seem to think that it has a larger impact on their sales. And then we also asked specifically about social media. And the question was, how important is social media for your business in the following areas? And the areas were the 6 that are listed in this graph. Their responses were on 5-point scale that appears at the bottom of the slide. But I scaled the graph so that we can actually see the similarities and differences a little bit more clearly. So the number one thing is that all agree with the second point, to build a positive community with customers. And that's like the number one reason why people would be using social media. And then they also agree, to a lesser degree, slightly lesser degree, that they'd like to have an active online presence, which is the first point. And then the last point, to educate customers. But there seems to be less enthusiasm among the smaller businesses. Now, to me, what's really notable is the perceptions of smaller businesses in terms of improving sales and increasing customer traffic to the store. And so those are the fourth and fifth points. And you see that here, the smaller businesses are a lot more enthusiastic and find it more important than their larger counterparts. And at this point, since these are businesses who are using social media, I'd like to think that their perception here is based on experience. There might be some expectation component to it. Again, we can't decipher from the raw data, but that's something to look into as well. Now, this third point here, we were surprised that compared to the other points, that the businesses did not find it as important to learn about marketplace through social media. And particularly for the larger businesses, it seems like they regard social media as just a venue to push or promote their messages, whereas it could be a valuable means to learn about marketplace, and that information can be used to help them strategize in a larger scope of business. Now, I see that I'm taking up a lot of my time away from Lori, so I'll wrap up. This is the last slide that I'm going to share about the results, is that I mentioned there were 17 businesses in our sample who were currently not using social media for marketing purposes. And these are the reasons why. Basically, it comes down to preferences, that the number one reason they're not using it is that they prefer face-to-face interactions with their customers. And then the second highest reason was that they did not have time. It wasn't the case that they didn't know how to get started or they didn't think it was important, but it seems like it was a matter of preference and then also time availability. And we feel like there are opportunities for shared learning here that increasingly more consumers today are finding the virtual interactions through social media to be equally personable compared to face-to-face interactions. And just like any business task, that if things are streamlined, you can deliver effective media marketing with not as much time. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Lori.
All right, thank you, Hikaru. I'm Laurie Baker, as Hikaru said, and I'm going to talk about some of the implications of our research and what it means for you. So let's dive right in. You likely have similar concerns as a small rural business as some of the things we found in this study. One of the things that, as Hikaru mentioned, was pretty low in the reasons why people felt like social media was valuable to their business was finding out about the marketplace. And that's one of the things that we really advocate through a lot of our research is social media and online media offer an excellent way for you to really find out about your customers and to find out what their needs and their wants are, so that you can better serve them online to actually bring them into your store, whether that is an online store or whether that's an in-person store. It also offers the opportunity for relationship marketing. One of the things that the research indicated is that people wanted that face-to-face interaction with their customers and that personal connection. Well, a lot of the literature related to social media indicates that we can build those relationships through online marketing. It doesn't have to be face-to-face communication necessarily. And this is really what can make a small rural business different than the big box stores or the larger stores, is that they can have that relationship element, and that can happen online just as well as it can happen in person. Also, another real take home that we like to advocate is to work smarter, not harder. There really are a lot of opportunities for us to take advantage of some tools that make things simpler and make things easier. So as small business owners that are super busy and don't have a ton of time to focus on these technologies, we can kind of break things down into smaller chunks. And we do a lot of this type of education through our online learning resource. So we certainly encourage you to join us there, and I'll give that link at the end to help you with some tips and tricks. But I have a few along the way to talk about how to really categorize your audience. And initially looking at your audience and deciding if they are rural or if they're urban. Just because you're rural doesn't necessarily mean you're only selling to rural businesses. But if you are selling predominantly to rural businesses, these are some of the things over on the left-hand side of your screen that the rural customers seem to interact differently online than your urban customers. They typically have a smaller network of friends. They're typically less trusting with their privacy settings, so it may be harder to reach them unless they have actually already gone and liked your page or chosen to interact with you and join your community. And they primarily use Facebook, which, as Hikaru presented the results, it looked like our group was predominantly using Facebook over websites, which is something that has been confirmed in some of our previous research too, is that the businesses are kind of mirroring that use of Facebook versus websites. Pinterest and Instagram are rising with the rural audiences, and Twitter is really not something that the rural audiences are using as actively as the urban audiences. And if you look on your right here, urban audiences are interacting a little bit differently. They do have typically a larger network of friends, and they're usually more open to sharing content with strangers, accepting things from strangers. So it may be a little easier to reach these without first having a personal interaction with these audiences. They are also more diverse in their social media use. They're using more platforms and they're using them more often. So while they are on Facebook, they are also using Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter more frequently than our rural users are. So really the takeaway here is you have to understand your unique audience to truly identify what social media platforms you should use and which ones will be the most effective for you and your business, because every audience is different. One thing that we really advocate as well is tracking your audience. So you may not initially know what your audience is made up of and what they want or what they need. But through your social media and your online interactions, you can determine those things. So you can directly ask your audience, and you can do that in multiple ways. You can send them, if you have an email, you could send them a quick 2-question survey for them just to fill back out and let you know how they'd like to interact with you. You can also take information from them at your register when they come into your store and ask them how they would like to connect with you in the future. You can also watch them online. So if they're already members of your platforms, you can track the demographics within all of your internal measurements within Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest. You can also offer promotions via certain platforms. So maybe you offer something special via Instagram and something different via Facebook. And then you can track which ones come in the most for that, and whether that's in your online store and they have a special code, or whether that's a specific promotion that's in your store, a different day, a different time, so that you can really track which ones are working for you. And over here on the right, you can really start to track what times and what content. There are some general times that really work for people, but your audience may be different, and they likely may be interested in content at a different time than you're ready to deliver it to them. So you can try posting at different times, and just because you only have time at 5 o'clock in the morning to post, that may not be the time they're listening. So you can use some of the internal scheduling tools in Facebook and Twitter, or you could use a platform like Hootsuite to schedule your tweets or your Facebook posts in advance. So that way you can really choose some different times and decide which ones are the most effective for your audience. You can also try different content. So some people may be more likely to respond to pictures. Some may respond more to video. They may respond more when you take a picture of a content, or they may respond when you have a child in the photo. So paying attention to those types of things and tracking what works for your audience is important. It's also important for you to really think about testing one thing at a time. So we can't try all of the different things at the same time, or we won't know which is working. So focus on one thing at a time and track what works best for your audience using your analytics. Basically, your audience is different than anyone else's. So find out what they need and what they want. And I know a lot of this happened really fast, and you might not know the details of how to use it because some of these things are new and come on board all the time. But that is one of the goals of our center, is to really help people understand how they can use these platforms more effectively. One of those platforms is Google Trends. I don't know how many of you may be using that already, but as Google products are, they usually do great things and are designed very well. So you can actually go to Google Trends and ID relevant keywords for your business. So perhaps in the world of the garden center, a garden center is really using the word garden center. Well, maybe people are actually searching for plants as opposed to garden center. So you can track which words are most popular for searches, and you can drill down to what was more popular in the past, what's currently popular, and what future trends you're seeing. And you can break that down by geographic region. So maybe in Texas, one term is more popular than in New York, or maybe something is more popular in a different country than it is in the United States. So you can track that and drill down how to get to your audience and find new people based on the appropriate terms. So you're busy. We know that from our research. We know that because you own your own business and you're a busy person. So it's okay to ask for help. And as I mentioned, we have some resources and tools that are free, and we try to educate people through our blog content. But we also have some paid services. So if that's something that works for your team and you're interested in that, we'd be happy to help you with some of those things. This is a list of our overall services. We offer social media boot camp for those people that are just getting started and have no idea what to do. We also offer Facebook prescriptive analytics, so we can actually look at your analytics for you over the period of a year and tell you which things were working well for you, which images were working, which times were working, and really offer you some direction for the future. We can do that same sort of thing with your e-newsletter, and we can do an entire integrated online marketing analysis, where we look at all of your platforms that you're using and which ones are more effective and which ones can be improved in which ways. The prices for those vary, so probably have to contact us, but they really start at just $50. Okay. I also said you could engage with us in the future, and we would love that. Our blog that we call our online learning resource is ruralengagement.org, listed there at the top. We post blogs regularly for tricks and tips and ways to help analyze your social media, things not to do, things to do. And we'd be happy to engage with you there. We also have a community on Facebook that we'd enjoy engaging with you there, facebook.com/ruralengagement. And if you're interested in more, we have our new media at ksu.edu email, as well as our phone number listed there. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and allow people to ask questions.
This is Cheryl again. I just wanted to take just a minute to point out that while we are just now beginning to offer some services, we're not a marketing agency, and our goal is not to be a marketing agency. We want to help you and empower you to be able to do it yourself, but it's overwhelming at first, and we want to be able to show you how you can do it yourself, and so that's why we created that menu of services.
Great presentation. So for those in the audience, we're going to go ahead and do our question and answer session now. So in the chat box below, it's at the lower right hand corner. If you'll go ahead and type in your questions for our presenters, and we'll get to those as they come up. And so we'll give everybody just a moment for those. And I think I'll start with the first one. And so one question I've got for you is, when you think about small businesses and social media, whether it's the horticulture industry or some sort of others, what should a bare bones social media plan look like? That's one question I get asked a lot. So what's kind of a bare minimum thing that rural or small businesses should be thinking about doing?
Big question. And it's different for everyone. But I think one of the things that we've really found in our research, both from the customer side and the business side, is that sometimes less is more. If you can focus on one platform, and it seems like Facebook is really the most common for businesses as well as audiences right now, to get started, if you could just focus on one and try to spend just 5 minutes a day trying to get things set up right, trying to get pictures ready, trying to get things scheduled, that is probably the best thing that you can do, so that way you're not overwhelmed. I think a lot of people will go ahead and say, oh my goodness, well, I have to be on Facebook, I have to be on Instagram, I have to also be on Pinterest, and then they're overwhelmed and overworked, and they aren't making time for it the same way they are their other business strategies. So just dedicating a little bit of time to it every day to maintain that content and keep it fresh, and focusing on the one thing at a time.
In addition to having a website, every business needs an internet address landing page. In this day and age, if you don't have a website, you don't exist. So even if it's a plain landing page, it's better than nothing. Claiming your Google Plus page, just some of those really basic, like, I exist, I'm here kind of things, and then addressing social media. And it's okay if you do a lot of your marketing and a lot of your business on social media, but they also need a home to find basic information about your business too. Right? Yes.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it depends on, I guess I get nervous about people thinking they have to have a website if they can't develop one that's going to look nice. Because if they're going to have one that looks like it was designed in the 90s and has flashing web buttons,
That's true.
that may turn people off. Whereas if you fill out, as Cheryl said, your Google Places page, that may be one of the most valuable ways that somebody can find you. If you list your hours there, if you list your website there, Google loves their own products, and so they rank highly in their algorithm and will come up as top searches for them.
We got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, let's get to a couple of these. So from Chris, he asks, what are some common do's and don'ts, or especially don'ts, for small businesses on social media? So what would you suggest are some, looks maybe more interesting to address the don'ts, but what are some do's and don'ts for small businesses on social media?
Well, and I think we talked a little bit about the do's already, so maybe we'll lead with some of the don'ts. It's funny, I think we have a blog post planned over next week that's going to highlight some don'ts, because that is something people get kind of caught up in is, am I doing it wrong? And then not that there's so much right or wrong, but I think lots of times people are actually spending too much time, they can, and posting all the time. Well, some of our research says that people don't necessarily want to hear from you all the time, but they want to hear from you enough. And some of our earlier research that our director conducted really indicated that it's okay to sell online. The customers in that study were really saying that they were upset when they found out about sales um, via somebody else that wasn't following them on Facebook or wasn't following them on another social media platform. So it's okay to offer some selling. So don't feel like you just have to educate or just have to be there for a service, that it's okay to offer some sales and to offer some promotions and to offer some special things.
Mixed in.
Right, mixed in with some of your education and offering that personal aspect. So I think looking too much like a business is one of those don'ts there. If you can make that personal connection, it's better for people.
And conversely, if your business is too personal, if you're writing, if your image, if your profile image is of the main person who's writing the post and it's coming from a first person perspective of things that are not necessarily relevant to the business, or if they have to friend the page instead of follow the page, if it's not the right kind of page, you need to make sure you claim you have a business page and you're representing the business, and anybody who's posting on your behalf is doing a representative job of your culture for your business and not just a personal perspective uh, for the posts.
And I do think another one on the list of don'ts it is not having a strategy. So I know that if you're a successful small business owner, you have an amazing strategy and an amazing plan for how to operate your business. Well, social media and online marketing should be the same. There should be a plan and there should be a strategy. It shouldn't just be, well, today I feel like taking a photo and posting it, and then
There's a place for that.
right.
But there needs to be a plan in place too, just like you plan your traditional media, your newspaper and your radio spots. We know you have that planned out months in advance. You just need to add another column for your social media efforts as well. Time.
I see
Thanks
that.
for.
How much?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to read the question. Sorry, John. Didn't mean to steal
No,
your
no,
job.
no, no. Go ahead.
How much time should I be spending on my social media for my business? And that does kind of vary. I think when you initially set things up, it may take you a little more time to make sure that you fully flesh out your about page. It's really important that you have your hours there. It's really important that you have a way to contact you there, because people may be searching at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning and they want to be able to email you then and ask you questions or find you on other platforms, or just know when you're open. Those are important things to do. So it might take you a little more time initially, but as long as you build a little bit of time into each of your days to focus on social media and how it fits into your business, 5 to 10 minutes may be enough. And it may work out that you can block off an hour on Monday and schedule all of your posts for the next 2 weeks. And then you just need to be looking for pictures of your business during the week that would make sense, or any fun customer stories that happen along the way that fit into that plan, that fit into what you've already established and you've planned for your business. And is Facebook page enough? That was a part of Randy's question there too. It really can be. Facebook is a predominant platform and it is an always changing platform, which makes it hard, but it also makes it wonderful because, the minute Periscope came out and people were using live video, well, Facebook found a way to use live video too. And so it really can be enough. You can use all of the tools and integrate a lot of options. And as long as your audience is also on Facebook, which at this point in time in the United States, the majority of people are on Facebook and continue to use it. In fact, the younger audience is even coming back to Facebook when they've left Facebook previously. So Facebook really can be enough. Certainly when you're starting out, it's probably plenty. Depends on your business goals. If you have a really visual business, maybe Instagram would make sense, maybe Pinterest would make sense, but certainly starting with Facebook, it can be enough.
Thank you for that response, by the way. Let's take this next question. So from Julia, if she's a small business owner, why should I be engaged in social media? I think this might be more of a philosophical question, but if you get that question from a small business, what's probably your most candid response to that question?
Right. Well, and I think it varies certainly on your business goals and your business needs, but it is a way for small businesses to compete. So the larger businesses, we attend a lot of conferences related to these topics, and we do a lot of reading on these topics. And we had an opportunity in October to attend a national conference related to marketing, and they were talking about big data and how businesses like Coca-Cola can use big data to make opportunities look unique. So they track a person, they know they always purchase Diet Coke, they can track them via their mobile device, they know they're in the grocery store at that time, and they can get them a coupon pushed to their phone for Diet Coke while they're in the store. So those types of things are happening for big businesses. And we can't afford to do those things as small businesses. But we have an opportunity to build relationships with customers, and we have an opportunity to connect with them in a real way when marketing has gotten to a point where the big businesses feel a little fake and don't feel quite as personal. Small rural businesses can offer that personal connection, and social media offers a way for your customers to get to know you on a real basis, particularly if you're in some type of food production. Consumers more and more have a lot of questions about where their food comes from, who's processing their food, who's making their food, who's getting it to them. Well, this is an opportunity for you to be transparent and tell them those things, and offer them a different way to purchase products than from the big stores. So we really see it as an opportunity for us to compete with the big boys at the table.
Cool. Thank you for that. So I'm going to encourage the audience one last time to go ahead and type your questions in as you've got them. And if we don't see any other questions, I think I'm going to get the last one in. Then we can wrap this webinar up. So one thing I thought about as you were talking is what are some, or what's one of the clever things available with social media that you would actually like to see small businesses do? We've got the survey data. You've got a lot of experience doing this. What are some clever things, or what is like one clever thing you would really like to see small businesses start doing?
Well, I guess we always advocate strategy. That's the first thing we want them to do. That doesn't sound very clever or very exciting. It makes it sound a little more boring. But I think trying some of the new things would be great. So some of the things we're going to start looking at are opportunities with 360-degree video. I think integrating video is one of the ways that small businesses can start to be a little more innovative, and video isn't as complicated as it used to be. You can shoot good video from an iPhone or an iPad, and you can even get some pretty decent quality audio. Most of the algorithms right now, well, Facebook and Instagram specifically, video is ranked higher. So those are more likely to appear higher in the news feed for the people that are liking you or following you on those platforms. So video is a way for you to possibly get a little bit higher in somebody's algorithm when you're a smaller business and may not be getting as many likes or as many shares initially. So that might be one way.
And it doesn't have to be intensely edited and formulated. We have a local garden center here in Manhattan, Kansas, that just a week or two ago, the owner did a 3-minute video with her phone, and you could see her shadow with the phone in her hand and everything. And she just wanted to show people all the new plants that were there and available on the benches. And I think people want to know what they're going to see before they get there. And a lot of times that'll entice them to make sure they come by the store to get that product. And so all she did was walk around and talk about what was there. And I kept seeing it pop up in my video feed, and every time, or my Facebook feed, and every time there were more and more views. And I think it's the first time I've really seen at least a local to us garden center that had thousands of views on a simple video like that. And I thought that was pretty powerful that, just previewing what people are going to see here can get them excited for the season and the things that they want to purchase from you. And I think that was kind of our original vision too, is that we knew of one particular business that was in a town of 528 population 528, and they had a couple of niches, and they were a fantastic business, and people would travel, rent buses to travel to this business to buy their products. And it was all because they had this um, special area of emphasis, and people would go there. So they brought an incredible amount of business to their very small, very rural community, because they said, "Hey, look what we have. We're special." And people would come to them intentionally. And so that's one of the things that we want to achieve with the work that we're doing, is get you to stay in where your small rural business is, stay in your community, stay with the people that you love and the place that you love, and figure out ways to bring people from urban areas, metro areas, to entice them out to see what your agritourism experience is like.
Great. Well, thank you for that. In wrapping up, are there any parting thoughts or any last reminders you want to throw out before we wrap this up?
Well, really, just to continue engaging with us on our learning resource as well as our Facebook community. We'd be happy to answer questions that way, or interact with you further as you develop your plan for your business.
Yeah, and if you have questions or ideas, we love getting ideas on any of those engagement platforms, and we're pretty quick to develop a blog post to address the particular question that you have. So we're all about helping you be more successful in your business. And thank you for tuning into the webinar, and stay in touch.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you too in the audience for your participation. Again, if you would like a recording of the webinar, I've got our YouTube page up, so you can visit us there, or you can send me an email. And with that, thanks again to Doctors Baker, Boyer, and Peterson. And hope you have a great Thursday.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
That's our bye.